We have certain info that's easier to see in standard form and certain info that's easier to see in factored form. For example, can you agree that the degree is really easy to see in standard form, right? And it's a little trickier in factored form, right? But then if I think about the x-intercepts, aren't the x-intercepts way easier to see in factored form, right? Because on this one, the x-intercepts would be 2, 1, and -2, right? So the point of this is to put everything together from what we've learned so far, right? Factor each of these completely, find whatever info we need from the form it's easiest to find it in, and connect our dots, right? So let's do one together, start to finish, okay? So let's go back to the one you guys just did. The one you just did, you would have gotten, it was x plus 1 was the factor, right? And what'd you get for your other two parentheses when you factored it? Did you add to 4 and multiply to -5? 5 and -1? I think you might have put your answers to your puzzle in your parentheses. Okay, look, now, hold on guys, stay with me. Okay, I'm gonna come here, and this is my graph of number 3, right? Okay, this is my graph of number 3, okay? So first, let's go back and take a look here and say, okay, use the standard form of the equation to find the y-intercept. If we're doing number 3, then which piece is my y-intercept? Good job. It's always the constant term from standard form, right? Okay, and then is this one going to be a positive even, positive odd, negative even, or negative odd? Good. Positive odd. So all of that information for over here tells me I can plot my y-intercept and my positive odd end behavior. Okay. Yeah. Can you go over how to find the end behavior? It's just something you got to memorize from your. I had you guys put it on your flip chart, but so it was. We learned that day that pattern that when my leading coefficient is positive and my degree is odd, it always has that down-up end behavior. And yeah, eventually it's just something you got to get memorized. When it's up, up, down, down, or from there. Is that good? Yeah. This one was a positive odd. Positive x, 3 was odd. So it was a down, up. Good? Okay. Now let's go back here and look at part B. Use the box method to division, decide which of the given linear factors is a factored form. Done. Part C, okay, I'll put that one here since it's the only one not part of the graph. What was the remainder? I thought I saw a couple 240s, right? Yeah, okay. D, use the quotient from factored form above to complete the factoring. That's what we did here, right? So do you see how, this is how I know that it's a completely factored polynomial because of our first fundamental theorem of algebra. X cubed means 3 x's being multiplied, right? Okay, then use the factored form to find the x-intercepts and their multiplicities. Where's this first x-intercept going to be at? Remember, you have to set it equal to 0. So x plus 1 equals 0, right? It's at -1, right? Then what's this next one? Positive 1. And what's the last one? negative 5. Okay, so then I'll come over here and I'll plot those. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to move my end behavior.
It's negative 5.
Was it negative 5?
Yeah, because it was
Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you. So I'm moving my end behavior just so that it's on either side of my x-intercept so that my graph won't look wonky. Okay. Okay, so then I come back here and it says, oh, and see if you can connect the dots. Okay, so what's the exponent on each one of these? 1, which is an odd number. So they all have an odd multiplicity. So are any of them going to bounce? No. So then I come back over here and I say, okay, well, I have to start here as a dot, quote unquote, right? My arrow. And then hopefully this is exactly like what you guys did on your worksheet from a couple class periods ago, right? Yeah, it's a little wonky, but we don't need perfect graphs yet, right? And then the last step, I think, asks us to write the formal end behavior and domain and range. So as x goes to the left, is my y going down or up? As x goes to the left, is my y going up or down? So that'd be to negative infinity. Then as my x goes to the right, what's my y doing? Going positive. Domain. Does this one go left and right forever? Yep, so it's negative infinity to infinity. And what about the range? Does this one go up and down forever? Yeah, okay. Hopefully you're seeing that 99% of what I'm asking you to do today is just tidbits from the rest of the unit, right? The only new thing is to factor it completely. But you have all those parts too, because we can divide to find the remainder 0, and then we're going to be left with the quadratic that we can factor. Okay? Before I give you a ton of time to work on this with your neighbors today, and I'll walk around, what do you got? What questions do you have for me? Yes?
Can we just go over the process to factor a standard form equation one more time?
To factor a quadratic?
To get it into not standard.
I'm not going to go over quadratic factoring again. We spent 2 of our 5 review days on it. But like I'm happy to go over like once it's factored how to write the factored form. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Okay. So once okay, so on this one here, on number, let's do number 1. Okay, so when I divided the 2 things on number 1, okay, you ended up with the one that had no remainder being this one, right? Okay, then once I did that division, I ended up with a quotient that factored, so my quadratic quotient, right, was here. So when I factored that, I got this, okay? So then I think what you're asking is once I have my quadratic factored and I know which one was my quotient, to get the factored form, you're just putting the 3 x's together, right? So negative x, and then this one had 2 of the same factor, so I square them because it was 2 of the exact same. On the other 2 ones we didn't square anything because they were all different. But this is, we want to write it like this so that we can see on this one, on number 1, you should have a bounce somewhere because its multiplicity is even. Does that make sense? Okay, anyone else? You guys, the rest of the class is yours to do this worksheet.